Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. And one of those people is Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We talk to him every Friday. We talk about Saints and Pelicans and anything else that might be on his mind. Before we go any further, let me just say welcome back and hope you're doing well, Jeff.
Thanks, Ricky. Yeah, it's good to be back. Great weather this week in New Orleans, throughout the Gulf Coast. So it almost feels like spring already.
It does. And my son Jordan and I have been doing a little bit of fishing and starting to catch a few fish.
Nice.
Which that means, the rain has settled down and we're getting the salinities back to where it needs to be and so on. You see over my shoulder, incidentally, for the Facebook and YouTube audience, you see this. I've stayed in this is the studio I use for SuperTalk Outdoors. Kind of stayed in this mode because I had this flag from Ukraine that I posted, and I may or may not keep that next week, but I'll probably get back to my Coast Vue backdrop next week. But in my recent conversation with James O'Byrne, our friend who lives in France, one of the things he pointed out, as Macron and others were doing everything in their power to try to avoid this incredible slaughter that we're observing over in Ukraine as we speak, was the thing that made it so powerful to him is that it was on the European land. I mean,
right.
This is if you were in America, you could take a quick drive, relatively speaking, to where this war is taking place, and it's been hard to watch, hasn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, it really puts everything into perspective here. Just how serious it is. First really escalated conflict like this in my lifetime, I think. So
yeah,
it's very serious stuff. And obviously everyone's thoughts are with the people of Ukraine as they go through this awful situation.
Well, you're in news media. You saw after Katrina the role that media played. It was so powerful. We both had the opportunity to be part of teams that won Pulitzer Prizes after Hurricane Katrina. But what is so powerful, and what I've talked about numerous times on this show, is the role that media is going to play in this war. In the tyrant days, you could control the media, and the day that we're in today, you can't. And everyone is a reporter. And what's happening is every Ukrainian with an iPhone is recording what's happening around them. And you're getting to see, I mean, as ugly and as sad as it is, you're getting to see from all of their eyes what's really happening there, and it's not good. And I think the role that social media will play, the role that this new technology will play, and in this war is something that Putin underestimated. And I've said it multiple times on this show that when you live in an age when one call to Elon Musk can change whether an entire country gets internet access or not, we're in a different place, aren't we?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. I didn't even think about that, but how things have changed with the advent of technology. I was just having this conversation with Steve Gleason the other day because he brings up the fact that Lou Gehrig had ALS, obviously Lou Gehrig's disease. It didn't have the technology that Steve is now blessed with, where he can live his life with this horrible disease, but technology makes it possible for him to communicate and have a life, a purpose-filled life that Lou Gehrig was not blessed with. And Steve was saying that he's been meeting with some of the founders of Microsoft and Google, and he said he's convinced in 10 years that he's not going to have a tablet anymore to communicate, that it will go straight from his brain and he'll be able to actually just go right to communicate through his computer from his brain. He's not going to have to type with his eyes.
It may be possible. I mean, I know that one of Elon Musk's companies actually is doing the Neuralink technology.
Yes.
And, if you think about where technology has come, what has happened just in the last 10 years and the way that it's merging with medicine and how, one of the things about Neuralink is it's, looking at going in and making changes so that people can see again, or, not that they're doing this now, but that's the goal, to deal with parts of your brain that deal with diabetes and and other muscular diseases and spinal injuries, and the list goes on and on. The kind of incredible research that they're doing, man. When you put it all together, and especially you look at genetic science and what they're doing there, I think that wouldn't it be something that Steve got to experience that in his lifetime? And I know you're close with him. You're working with him on a book. You actually were in his you see in the parade. You're actually with his little small crew, right?
Yeah, we marched or rolled, I should say, in the Hermes parade on Friday of Mardi Gras, Friday before Fat Tuesday, and that was an epic experience. I mean, it just shows you. I knew this, but just to witness it firsthand, Ricky, to see just how beloved Steve is. People were just going nuts. Just at the sight of him in the parade route. We were in right behind the 6th float, so we were early in the parade. And look, I mean, people were bursting through the barricades to get selfies taken with him on the parade route. And J.J. Redick was there, former Pelicans player, and he came out with his family. It was just an unbelievable kind of New Orleans experience, and it couldn't have been a better night. And it was just really gratifying to see people show so much love to Steve. I know it meant a lot to him and his family.
What's so amazing, as you've said this before, and we've shared this on the show before, but he's so courageous, but he doesn't want his story to be about his disease. He really wants his story to be about his leadership in the moment, and that he continues to live his life, continues to have a family, continues to make his mark on society. And I'm not surprised to hear that he was out in Silicon Valley meeting with some important people, and he's just not going to let any grass grow on him, is he? No,
I mean, he's one of the most inspiring. He probably is the most inspiring person I've ever met. I mean, he's changed the way I live my life, and he surrounds himself, Ricky, with these other amazing people. Like the Team Gleason folks are just incredibly inspiring people themselves. I mean, they're so selfless, smart, caring, and so everyone in Steve's orbit is just kind of a great person. And so you can't help but be inspired being around people like that. And the changes that they're bringing to ALS, and they're on the forefront of that. And it's all because of Steve's leadership. And he says it all the time. He's having a much greater impact on this world, his post-NFL career, than he ever did as a football player. And I think that's without question one of the things that keeps him going.
Hey, so we'll talk about the Saints here in the second half of the show. You and I talked about the Pelicans and challenges that they're going to have and challenges that they are having, and what the future of Zion's going to be. You see in trade rumors and blah 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 blah. So what's your latest thinking on Zion's situation and the team's situation?
Well, I think it's such a fluid situation, Ricky. I think it could change week to week, but right now there's definitely a disconnect between the Zion camp and the Pelicans camp. There's no doubt about it. And that doesn't mean it's irreparable, that it can't get fixed at some point. But I think the best hope for Pelicans fans is that they just traded for C.J. McCollum, who is the president of the NBA Players Association, one of the most respected players in the league. I think with McCollum on the roster now and Willie Green, who's doing such a great job in his first year as coach, I think if they can ever get Zion back in the building and get him in the hip pocket of C.J. McCollum, they could iron this thing out and keep him in the fold. But right now, it's definitely, I think, tenuous for his future. And I don't know if he's going to play again this year. It doesn't sound like it.
I saw where there was a story written about the potential of a trading for Ben Simmons. But again, a lot of clickbait. You and I've talked about this before. But Zion, because of the situation and because of his incredible talent and at least the opportunity to emerge, if he can mature into one of the greatest players ever, assuming he can overcome his physical issues, it's not a surprise to me to read all of the speculation around him. I mean, there's just a huge buzz about him and the team right now, isn't there?
Yeah, he's got such tremendous star power. I think he might be the player that entered the NBA with more buzz in the social media era, of any athlete, and that might be working to his detriment a little bit because he's had so much come at him so quickly in his career He's got a lot of people pulling at him. He has a huge contract with Jordan Brand, Nike. He has other endorsement deals, and he can't get on the floor right now. He's had so many injuries. He's played 85 games in entirety of his 3-year career. That's one season, basically. So he's had a very unfortunate start, and it hadn't helped matters that the guy drafted right behind him, Ja Morant, by the Memphis Grizzlies, is leading Memphis to this incredible run that they're on, and really is emerging as a superstar in the league. And it's really unfortunate for the Pelicans that they haven't been able to get the same kind of production out of Zion.
Fox Sports had a headline that said the Pelicans' $200 million Zion problem that could shake up the NBA, and that's very possible. I mean, that's a good source there, yeah. And that's powerful speculation. But you think about what the trade could do is pretty significant. We'll finish that part of the conversation and see what the latest is on the Saints when we come back with Jeff Duncan. See you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Hey, before we finish talking about Pelicans real quick, I read that headline from Fox Sports that said it's a $200 million problem that could shake up the NBA. Why do you think that they see it being so significant? Why shake up the NBA?
Well, I mean, if Zion does not sign, if the Pelicans don't offer him the $200 million maximum extension, that would make the first #1 overall pick in the history of the NBA that hasn't taken that maximum extension, because it's just so much more money than he can get anywhere else. And the NBA put that into the collective bargaining agreement so markets like New Orleans can hang on to players like Zion when they get them. These smaller markets can keep them. It gives them incentive to stay in New Orleans. The fact is, the Pelicans might not offer it to him because he's been so hurt. They might not want to tie up that kind of money into him. That would certainly send a signal, Ricky, that he would be available for the trade market. And a player like him could generate a huge return for the Pelicans if they decide to go down that route. So there could be a lot of dominoes falling around the league if a guy like Zion makes it to the trade market. Okay,
let's go to the Saints. So recently, the ghost of Sean Payton continues to haunt Mike McCarthy in Dallas. What's your thoughts on these continued rumors about he's going to spend a year in maybe the booth and TV and then go coach at Dallas?
Well, I mean, look, anything's possible, but I don't think there's any plan to do that at all. I think Sean right now is really interested in doing TV. I know he's going to do TV. He's certainly a candidate at Fox. He's a candidate with Amazon, I think CBS. He's talked to all the networks and streaming channels. So he's going to do TV, and I think once he starts doing it, he may like it, and who knows, he might end up being the next Bill Cowher and just never go back to coaching. I don't think there's any plan here. First of all, Mike McCarthy is a really good coach, and I don't think he's going to fail. I think they're going to be very good next year, so they'd have to fire him to get Sean Payton, and I just don't see that happen. I think Dallas. They had a very good year this year. They won 12 games. So I don't know why they would even want to move on from Mike.
And of course, Mike McCarthy is now responding to that speculation. So I guess he's getting tired of it himself. Hey, so we've talked a lot about the Saints receiving corps. Michael Thomas, all signs are he's got the right attitude, wanting to come back, that he's healthy. They've restructured his contract. Is that consistent with what you're seeing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that they restructured him tells you he's going to be around here for sure. And I've heard nothing but good things about Mike Thomas. Matter of fact, Mike Thomas is the one that recommended. The Saints just hired a new strength and conditioning coach away from Nick Saban in Alabama. This guy's very well respected, and he was Mike Thomas is one of the people that recommended him. He's worked with him before. So I think that's a good sign, too, that the organization's listening to Mike Thomas on things like this. So I think getting him back, and we know there's still obviously some questions about the potential of a suspension for Alvin Kamara. So having Mike Thomas in the lineup will certainly help because he's obviously a dynamic playmaker.
You keep hoping you're going to see another side to the story that we don't know about, that the video missed as it relates to Alvin Kamara, but there doesn't seem to be some bucket of gold at the end of the rainbow that's going to somehow, show that he's didn't do what he's it appears he did. You're not hearing anything other than that as well, are you?
No, I haven't heard anything on that front. It's obviously a very concerning situation for the Saints. We had never seen really Alvin Kamara have any kind of off the field issues throughout his career here, so it's a very uncharacteristic of him to be involved in something like this, and I think it's unfortunate because it's probably going to cost the Saints their best player for multiple games starting this upcoming season.
Very, very unfortunate. Hey, by the way, before we get too far off the strength and conditioning coach from Alabama, the strength and conditioning coach has a strength and conditioning role that they play, but they're often also motivators behind the scenes. They spend a lot of time with the players. They bring them together. What's the book on this guy coming from Alabama?
Well, I think the Saints really were interested, and he's kind of on the cutting edge of a lot of new sports science. I think they were interested in that, some of the advances that he has brought to the Alabama football program. Now, there was a bidding war that went back and forth. I mean, he came in to the Saints and was interested in coming here, and Alabama offered him a new contract, and then the Saints came back and won up that. So this guy was in demand, and to get somebody like that away from Nick Saban is not easy to do. So that program's, let's face it, you got great security if you're the coach there. So for him to leave, I think says a lot about the New Orleans Saints and the culture and the perception of their organization. They can get somebody like that out from under Nick Saban's watch.
That's exciting. And of course, that's one of the first moves our new head coach made. So yep. I think he knew pretty much going in what he wanted to change, and that was one of the changes he wanted to make, and he found him a good one, it sounds like. If you do a search on NFL quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, and you've talked about this before, I don't know if we've ever gone into a season where there's been so much fury around you can bring a top-level guy in and win immediately. This whole notion of waiting and building. The fact that you can add somebody today, like L.A. Rams have done, like Tampa has done, and win immediately. There is a major competition for the best quarterbacks, if there are best quarterbacks out there. And so as a result of that, you're starting to see a lot more talk now about the possibility of re-signing Jameis. What are you hearing behind the scenes?
Yeah, I don't think they've really gotten to the point yet where they know what they're going to do. I mean, I don't think it's changed much. Dennis Allen said way back at his introductory press conference, it's the number one issue for this team, figuring out the quarterback situation. I think they're going to explore all options. And I think one of those options would be bringing back Jameis Winston. But I don't think that's the only option they're going to look at because it's too important a position. This team is playoff ready if they can get a quarterback in there. Now, Jameis looks like his rehab is going very well. He started running again, which is pretty amazing considering, how serious that knee injury was. But that's got to be factored into the equation for any kind of market, whether it's the Saints or anybody else. I mean, he's a free agent, so he can sign anywhere. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of demand he gets and what kind of teams he attracts. Like we've talked about it before, Ricky, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a very good team. Without Ben Roethlisberger, they need a quarterback. Tom Brady retired. So the Tampa Bay Bucks, just 1 year removed from winning the Super Bowl, that's a good team. So there's a lot of competition for these top quarterbacks. So I don't think it's cut and dry that the Saints can just get Jameis Winston because I think somebody else might have interest in him as well.
I read some Tampa Bay articles in the last couple of days from writers that were sort of evaluating the team and sort of reading the team and how they feel about it. And the way one of them described it was, it's really beginning to sink in life after Brady. And really, I mean, it's a good team, as you know. They're ready to go too, and so they have the same kind of thought about this. If you read it, it's literally, you could write it, Jeff. Thinking about life after Drew Brees and what that really means to our team and whether our team is really ready to win or not. And it is ready to win, and Tampa's, of course, ready to win. So it's going to be a bidding war out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I tell you, going back to Tampa, I mean, they've got a lot of issues because that team they kind of brought everybody back last year and went all in to try and win another Super Bowl. And now that Brady's retired, there's a lot of guys need to get paid on that team. And I don't think they're going to be able to pay everybody. So guys like Chris Godwin, great receiver. It's going to be a free agent. They've got some serious decisions to make this offseason as well. So the NFC South is wide open, Ricky. I think if the Saints can solve their quarterback situation, they have every reason to believe they could win the division next year because this Tampa team, Ali Marpet, their great offensive lineman, he just retired along with Tom Brady. So they've got some issues. And we know Atlanta, they're still kind of hovering around 500, and Carolina trying to build under Matt Rule, but their quarterback situation is kind of a mess with Sam Darnold not really producing. So I think the Saints have every reason to believe that they could be back in the playoff hunt, especially if they can fix quarterback.
Well, look, you and I have talked about this, every week we talk about this, but anything new on the free agent side, we're concerned about potential losing some of our better players. And then what's the talk of maybe trying to land somebody? What you hearing?
Well, they've got to get under the cap. That's the thing. They've already restructured a couple of deals to try and create some cap room, or they're not going to be big players in free agency if they can't get under the salary cap. And they've got to do that before the league year starts here the second week. I think it's the second week of March. So they got a lot of work to do on that front. I think they're going to struggle to retain Teron Armstead. He's going to be the top free agent tackle on the market. Those guys demand around $20 million a year. I just don't think the Saints can get into that market for him. And he's your starting left tackle, and a good one, and a leader in the locker room. So to me, that's one everyone needs to watch because he's going to, I think, have some high demand when he becomes free agent.
It's a dynamic offseason, maybe one of the most dynamic ever. Probably is, actually, when you consider where the Saints are and the opportunity to win, et cetera. Some really critical moves have to be made. Anyway, Jeff Duncan, you've been terrific as usual. We'll see you next week, my friend.
Thanks, Ricky. Talk to you soon, buddy.
You bet. This has been Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.